welcome to the channel. I'm Olivia. Today I'm going to be doing a little June palette roundup. So I'll start off by mentioning I did film this look. This was actually using products that are on my chopping block that are at risk of being decluttered for my collection. That video won't be up before this one is, but hopefully it'll be up soon. So I did actually get this idea from Kaylin. I believe her handle is Makeup Lins, but I'll link her down below if you want to check her out. She usually does this type of video every month where she just kind of talks about the palettes that she reached for over the last few weeks. She also often includes pictures of different looks that she's done with the palettes. So I think it's a really fun idea. I really like watching those videos from her channel. I know I'm very nosy, so I love seeing what kind of palettes people are reaching for on a day-to-day basis. And I thought it'd be kind of fun to try out this video for myself. So yeah, I'm hoping you like it. I'm excited to get into it. I will just preface by saying I wasn't really planning on doing this type of video until maybe like a week ago. So I haven't really been taking pictures of the looks I've been doing on a day-to-day basis. So it might be a little bit less fun of a video because of that, but I'm still hoping you enjoy it. And if you do, I'll be happy to keep doing this style of video. Again, I think it'd be really fun. And if I continue with it, I'll be sure to take more pictures throughout. So yeah, let's jump into it. So I've mentioned in other videos that June was a pretty hectic month for me. I was going through a bit of a job transition and there's a lot of training, there's a lot of work I had to do at all times apparently. So June was definitely not my most active month makeup wise. I really wasn't experimenting that much with a lot of fun, colorful looks. If I didn't have to go into work one day, I didn't bother putting makeup on, so it was a little bit of a slower month for me. So in total, I ended up using 18 different palettes throughout the month of June. So I'm going to start with the palettes that I only used once, and then I'll go into the palettes that I used the most. So the first palette I used in June was the Sugar Pill Capsule palette. Again, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to have any fun pictures to go with the looks except for like maybe one or two of them that I did last week. So I don't have any pictures with this one, but I did reach for these shades here to do a fun kind of bright look. Also, there's a fly in here and it's very obnoxious right now, so I hope you can't hear him buzzing around. If the video cuts out and then I come back with a hole in my wall, just ignore it. Here were two other palettes that I used one time each. This is the Viseart Cool Mattes palette, and this is the Sea Siren palette by Sugar Drizzle. This is what these two palettes look like. I did use them together for a look, which is why I'm showing them together now, but it was a little bit more of a bluey look, which was really fun. I believe I just used these two shades from this palette, and then I can't quite remember what I used from here, but it was probably a combination of like the neutrals and the blues as well. Another two palettes that I reached for one time each, but I used them together, was the ColourPop Tender Loving Cancer and then the Beauty Bay Bambi 1942 palette. And this is what these two palettes look like. I was really happy to use them together because I feel like they complement each other really well. I also really threw it back with the BH Royal Affair palette. This was another palette I used one time in June, although I did reach for it a couple times earlier this year as well. And this is obviously a very old palette, so I was happy to show it some love. I also reached for the Juvia's Place Tribe palette once in June. I did use it earlier this year as well, but only once over the last month. And I actually used this one in conjunction with another palette that we'll talk about later in the video as well. I also used the NARS Wanted palette once in June. I did mention this in another recent video. I don't think it'll be up before this one, but it's going to be like my summer palettes video. And I do mention that this is like one of my favorite NARS palettes, so I am excited to reach for this some more throughout the summer, but I'm happy to have already broken into it once. And this is what the color story looks like. I also reached for the NARS Skin Deep palette once. This one's also mentioned in my upcoming summer palettes video, so I am hoping to use it more throughout the summer, and hopefully you'll see it in my next palette roundup video. I also reached for the Unearthly Bunnies palette once in June. If you've been following my Shop My Stash series, you might know I think I had this one pulled out in May. I kept it around for June, and I'm probably keeping it around for July and August as well. So I would definitely love to get even more use out of this. For my one use in June, I actually only dipped into this one shimmer here, and I used it in conjunction with another palette. And the palette that I used this one with was the ColourPop Daisy Does It. And this is the first palette I'm going to mention in the video that I used twice in June. So again, once was with that look with the Bunnies palette, and then the other time I'm pretty sure was just on its own. As I mentioned before too, I did a look with the Tribe palette from Juvia's Place, and I used it with the California Love palette by ColourPop. This palette I ended up using twice in June. It's also in my upcoming palettes video, so I am anticipating using it more throughout the summer. I'll try not to spoil that video anymore though. Another palette that I used two times in June was the Sigma Corta Rosa palette. And again, if you've been following my Shop My Stash series, You might have recognized this from my everyday makeup drawer for May. So this one's been hanging around for a while and I'm happy to have reached for it a couple more times. This packaging is really reflective, but I also reached for the Summer Unrated palette by NARS, and I used this twice throughout June. And this is what this palette looks like. Obviously very appropriate for the season, and I'm excited to use it a little bit more. I also reached for the ABH and Carly Bible palette twice in June. I ended up kind of doing the same look both times. I think using like these shades and these shades. It was pretty basic. It was just for like a quick work look on both days. I wouldn't mind using this palette a little bit more. I feel like this bottom row is so beautiful, and I think some of these tones would be really perfect for the summer as well. So I wouldn't mind doing a couple more looks, but I'm happy to have reached for it twice in June. The last palette that I reached for twice in June is this little quad from Aether Beauty, and it's called the Citrine Crystal Quad. So this is what the palette looks like. Obviously it's pretty basic, but I think it's really pretty for the summer. I did actually take a picture of my look with this palette, so I'll pop it up on the screen. And of course it was the most basic palette and probably the most basic look that I actually thought to take a picture. But either way, I'll add one here, and hopefully next month I'll have a few more photos to show you. I did end up using this quad once on its own and then another time in conjunction with another palette. And that palette was the Linda Hallberg New Golden 20s palette. So this palette I reached for a total of 3 times in June. Here's what this palette looks like. As you can probably imagine, all the looks I did with this palette were pretty basic. I do really love the shimmers in here though, so I was really happy to use it 3 times. And the last palette I have to mention today is also one that I used 3 times, and it's the ColourPop Gettin' Fresh palette. So this is what this palette looks like. Again, if you follow my Shop My Stash series, this was in like the very first video, so it's been hanging around for quite a while, and I hadn't really used it until a couple weeks ago. I do actually have photos of looks that I did with this palette, but I am working on a multiple looks one palette video with this, so I don't think I'll add the pictures because I do want you to check out that video if you're at all remotely interested. It's still in progress. I have a couple more looks to do, but I am excited to continue to use this. So yeah, those were all the palettes that I used throughout the month of June. Like I said, it was a little bit more of a slower month in terms of makeup. I feel like usually I'm like bouncing around between like 20 to 25 palettes, but I am still happy I was able to dip into all these palettes over the last month, and hopefully next time I'll have a few extra looks to show you. I will say it feels a little bit embarrassing and maybe a little bit sad that my most used palette of the month was used 3 times, but like I say in a lot of my videos, I have a huge eyeshadow palette collection, so as much as I'd love to dig into these palettes and use them several times over, I do really try to focus on rotating through my collection just so I can actually use everything I own. But yeah, anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for the video. I really hope you enjoyed this. Please leave any feedback down in the comments below. I am planning to continue with this series because again, I find it really fun. I enjoy watching these types of videos, so I kind of want to keep making them as well. If you like this style of video, or if you're just looking for some other fun makeup content to watch, I do encourage you to check out Kaylin's channel because she does a lot of fun videos like this too. She also does some project panning and some chatty videos, so you might enjoy her channel, and again, I'll leave a link down below as well. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me today. Thanks so much for spending your time with me and for checking out my video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!